UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Good evening and welcome to Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. A lot has been happening, especially as we get closer to the 2026 elections. As we turn this bend, a lot of intrigue and turmoil in different political elements are beginning to take charge. What does that mean for the democracy of the country? What does that mean, especially for constitutionalism in this country? Can 2026 be an election that gives peace and non-violence to this country? Especially when we look at tweets that came in over the weekend, but also when we look at alliances between a civic organization and a political organization. What does that mean for the future of this country? But also what does that mean for the opposition in this country? Tonight, that's where our focal point of discussion will be on the elements there, but also we'll spread it further to discuss the most recent happenings here. But before we get into that, let me introduce the panel that is with us today. On my immediate left, Charity Ahimbisibwe, a lawyer, the executive director of the Electoral Laws and Governance Institute, is here with us today. Good evening.
A very good evening, Timothy. Thank you for having me here. A very good evening to all our viewers. I'm most certainly delighted to be here.
Thank you very much for coming. Next to Charity is Honorable Ojara Martin Mapenduzi, the Member of Parliament representing the people of Laibi Bandege, and is with us today. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, my brother Timothy, and good evening, viewers.
A very patriotic shirt at that.
That's right.
Extreme left, Honorable Minister Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, Cabinet Minister in charge of ICT and National Guidance, Member of Parliament representing the people of Kiteezi West, but also the Vice Chairperson, Western Region National Resistance Movement. Good evening, sir.
Thank you very much. My constituency is Kiteezi East.
East.
Because the Bible says the wise men and women came from the East. So, thank you very much, Timothy. And good evening, fellow panelists. Good evening, viewers. I am happy to be here behind the headlines once again. Thank you.
It's been a long time since we had you, Honorable Minister, and we're glad we are having you today.
I have been in front of the headlines. Now I have come behind the headlines.
Hopefully you can give us the information that has been at the front. Let's start on a note that came out yesterday evening. But before we do that, you can be part of the show. Go to our YouTube channel, drop your comment there, or go to our X platform, hashtag UBC Behind the Headlines. Drop your comment there. Let us know what you think. The number is 0709 60 25 92, both text and WhatsApp. Let's get to what happened yesterday. The president sent out a letter, and the topic of that letter was President Museveni dismisses KCCA top officials following the report on the Kiteezi landfill. The disaster that happened there on the 10th of August, it's been about 2 months, and about 30 people, 15 were rescued, and more than 30 are claimed to be dead, but also 300 people were displaced there. And is this just enough for what happened to that landfill? The people that went on the chopping board were the executive director, Mrs. Chisaka Dorothy there, Engineer David Luyimbazi, the deputy ED there, and finally Dr. Daniel Okello. These are the director of public health. These are the three that went on the chopping board. Let's have a discussion so that the panelists can be able to make a comment on that. It's befitting that I start with the Honorable Minister, especially being that you give national guidance. Kiteezi landfill, people pass on, people displaced, still garbage in the city, most parts of it there. But these three people go on the chopping board. Your making of this letter of the president, and was this justifiable?
Thank you very much. First of all, I convey condolences once again to the families that lost their dear ones in Kiteezi.
Yes.
And those deaths were preventable deaths. Yes, yesterday, His Excellency the President dismissed those three top officials of KCCA And since that incident of Kiteezi happened, we've been discussing this matter in cabinet and the other fora within the government. One area of dissatisfaction the president expressed in the cabinet discussions are closed, but I speak for cabinet. I can as well comment on this. He wondered, as we discussed, he said, but there are many potential investors who have come, and many of them have met me. I cleared them and sent them to KCCA, up to maybe 100 of them who wanted to turn that garbage into energy, electricity. But I never get feedback what happens to them. And it was quite revealing and shocking. And you also saw that the president had received a report from the IGG following the incident. And of course, the president consumes a lot of intelligence information. And the question which Ugandans have also been asking is, how did the authorities allow us to reach this level where people die, and yet those are deaths which could have been prevented? So there was an element of negligence on the side of the leadership of KCCA and the indecision, and that's why the president took action. Today I addressed the press and actually urged the president to do the same in many other departments of government, because we hold these public offices in trust on behalf of Ugandans, and therefore we should take our jobs extremely seriously. So I think there was an element of negligence at the level of KCCA, and that's why the president wants those officials to account, and that's why he has asked police to investigate, to assess and see whether there are areas where the officials could be brought to book, even in addition to the dismissal. So we applaud the president for taking action, especially where he finds us asleep when we should be doing our job.
Thank you very much. We've been joined by Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, the leader of the Women's League at the National Resistance Movement. Good evening, ma'am, and it's good to have you.
Good evening to my colleagues at the panel and also to the viewers. I'm happy to be here.
Now let me get to Charity, and I'll come back to you to make a comment. Charity, the president actually made a comment and said the IGG's report was clear and outlined the oversight and the negligence that exhibited by the officials, and gives quite a lengthy discussion there. Also talks about CID giving him a bit of information there. But what did you make of this dismissal, and especially some of the comments made in that letter by the president?
The first thing the president says is there is criminal negligence.
Yes.
And he says there must be investigation as to whether there was actually criminal negligence. Of course, the elements of negligence legally are very elusive sometimes to pin someone. But in terms of being in office, they were supposed to have known what was taking place. They received a letter from the then Director of Health, Mr. Okello,
Yes.
who raised an alarm that Kiteezi was a disaster in waiting. And that letter had been received more than 3 months before the disaster happened. So unfortunately, if you're in office and you're supposed to take action, you better take that action. Because if you don't, then you're accountable. At the end of the day, if a thing like what has just happened to them happens, especially to Dorothy, I feel sorry for her. I really feel sorry for her, because I don't know if she was still trying to settle into office, she was trying to understand how it happens, but Luyimbazi had been there for quite some time. And Mr. Okello had written the letter himself. He had seen what was going on. So I wonder, where was the inaction coming from? Because now hundreds of lives were lost. As much as we might feel sorry for her for having lost a job, there are people who do not even have life in them. There are children who have lost their fathers, there are children who have lost their mothers. And so I think that, one, the president disproved a number of people who said he would never take any action. He has taken action. Some people, of course, have come out to say, oh, it's a political gimmick. As much as it might be a political gimmick, Timothy, my view is that he has taken action. So I am happy that at least he does speak about the Constitution and his constitutional powers to take decision when an element of error has been conducted by his officials who are acting in trust for the people. That is step number one. Number two, I think that, yes, the officials are going to be investigated for criminal negligence, and as to whether it turns out that they were criminally negligent, I think, unfortunately, it's going to be the Director of Health, but also the Executive Director, because of the letter that was received and the money that had been, they kept apportioning money every time to go to Kiteezi, but it didn't improve the process. Instead, what we saw was lives being lost, and the city has not improved at all. Basically, I wonder what happens at KCCA. I think it is a difficult spot to work in. There must be a lot of politics within KCCA. Either it is the politics, either it is the settling, because now you hear the political wing saying, for us, we wanted those people sacked and we are very happy that the president has taken action. But is it also possible that the political wing sometimes fails the technical wing? Is there a mismatch between the technical and the political wing that we are not seeing too well, and that even the next executive director should pay attention to? Because you see, it's not easy to glide between technicality and politics. Technicality requires that you follow a script that is administrative. You're following administrative law. Administratively, what am I required to do? I do this. So you do it. Now, politically, you can gladiate. Politicians always gladiate. You're a smooth operator. Today, you say this. Tomorrow, you say this. The other day, that's why you see our Lord Mayor is always changing positions, because he's a politician. But when you're an administrator, you're supposed to be strict to follow the script. So the people of Kiteezi shouldn't have died. We didn't need to have this tragedy happening. People should have been shifted from there because of the letter that had been written, and the way the whole catastrophe was handled. It is sad. It's just sad that it happened on us, and that government is now trying to make good out of a bad situation. But I think it looks bad on the whole government. The whole government at this point was negligent, and good action is being taken. I hope we never ever have to see Kiteezi again.
Thank you very much, Charity. Honorable Ojara, you were at the helm of the political leadership in Gulu there. And when you look at these incidents, the firing, the dismissal, and the incident of Kiteezi, you were at the helm of the roads, the organization of Gulu, even after the tragedies that happened. How did you balance the politics and the technical wing, as something Charity was mentioning here?
Well, let me start from the president's letter, and then I'll answer that. First, I don't understand a lot of things in Kampala, how things are done here in Kampala, because there are a lot of things that are not right, and there is need to clean a lot of things. Because when you, and by the way, there are cities that are emerging. They are far better than Kampala, and I invite you to come to Gulu and see the level of. We are not yet there, but you know, we have a clear idea of where we want to go. And so the mess in Kampala, I think there is need to clean a lot of things. It is good the president has taken that decision, because what happened in Kiteezi should have not happened. These are things that are avoidable. There are people who should have done their part, and when we end up losing lives, people have to be held responsible. those charged with the responsibility of providing services and providing safety and security and so on, they should be held accountable. And so it is good the president has taken that decision, which should be a very strong message to many other people. When you are an accounting officer, there are things you do that you have to be personally held liable. And I think that is the message my sister Dorothy has got, and the others, but also that should be the same message other Ugandans who are charged with the responsibility should get. But you see, it shouldn't stop with just like my sister here put it, they shouldn't stop with the technical people. And coming to the question you asked me, when you are chairman of a district or when you are mayor of a city, you are the political head of that institution. And you actually oversee the general administration of that, entity. And so I do not know how the mayor of Kampala City feels. Because if I were the mayor, unless there is proof that they did everything possible, but they got frustrated. But if there are indications that probably they did not do what they should have done, if I were that mayor, I would not be in that office. I would resign. I would resign. And actually, it would be shameful for someone in such kind of environment to even imagine seeking re-election. Like if you are mayor of Kampala, this Kampala that we have right now, and you get re-elected and re-elected, and the city keeps on getting messed up, I think then you need to start thinking straight. So and without being very polite, I think there is a problem at the political leadership level that they need to address, because then they need to think beyond politics, because this is our city. It has the largest population, but the services in this city, I can tell you, and for people who visit Kampala, they go back heartbroken.
Thank you, Honorable, for also sharing your experiences there. Honorable Lydia, you have traveled, you have been to the AU, you have been to different countries within the continent. Is this letter enough? What more can be done, especially to avert such incidents in the city center, especially the face of the country?
First of all, Kiteezi has been on the table for many months now. And what is actually very painful to many people is the humanitarian aspect of it, that there are still unaccounted for people that were not recovered. And there are many families who have not been able to close that chapter. You know, when you lose somebody, the only you can begin the process of healing is after the burial. It's not only traditional, it's the way we do things. So there are a number of people whose relatives' bodies were not found. And I think the efforts to recover the bodies closed, but those families have not closed the funeral. So that's another, it's the new normal, which is actually very strange. That's one. The second one, which has actually maybe brought us today here, is the action of the president. I think so. It should also be the method of work going forward. We have a country that does not have a luxury of a lot of resources, and opportunities are also very rare. So I think that every time we have meager resources in place, it should be visible that they have been put to frugal use and that there is an impact. And that if you've been given an opportunity to serve, you have no time to spare, because that opportunity is only one. And there are so many other people that would have loved to do that job, but they haven't been able given the opportunity. The ED has been there for more than 3 years. She was actually doing 4 years now. So you cannot say she was learning. If you are given a job and you are 4 years and you're not learned, I don't know what more learning you need. people of that level, you do not go to learn, you go to execute. You cannot be given a top leadership job to learn. I wanted just to make that correction. You go to deliver, because that is a very high notch responsibility to deliver the city by the standards that we know. The garbage in Kiteezi could have collapsed despite the letters and whatever, but that there was no minimum effort to even evacuate people. I think that's where the extreme negligence happens, because we didn't see any effort to tell people, to provide leadership on early warning to the communities. You can do paperwork, but there must be action also. So wananchi who are less suspecting about the danger continued going to that area, both residents and non-residents. There were so many people, Timothy, who died in that place, who don't live there, who go very early in the morning. They are called the scavengers. They go and they pick plastics and they sell them. I'm told each kilogram of a plastic is 3,000 shillings. So people wake up very early from all sorts of destinations to go pick plastics, and they gather them to go and sell. It's some kind of survival. So many of those people, and mostly young people and women, were caught up in that tragedy. So I think that the president's decision is important for the country, not only to provide healing to the grieving families, but it's a wake-up call to many people who are in positions of responsibility to owe a duty of care in the offices they hold, but also to know that they have a job to deliver and that they have resources to execute, to deliver the jobs that they have, not only in the city, but also elsewhere. And I think that they need to have reorganization of the city. If we are to get another leadership in the KCCA, the first job of the ED is to be supported, because you cannot do that work without the support of the executive, without the support of parliament, but also the councillors. And there is a lot of irresponsibility in many circles, but including the political leaders. I hear people saying that politicians should be accountable. We've not built a critical mass that causes leaders to account. And the laws that we have do not help wananchi to cause leaders to account. I have information that the number of people, not only the state council, but let me speak about the state council councillors. When they got elected, many of them took leave. They're not in Uganda. They are away. They took leave to attain diplomatic status, and they have traveled either to work or to do business out of the country.
Actually, one time in
So I don't know whether people are aware of that.
in 2022,
That you get elected
Mm-hmm.
to attain diplomatic status or status that makes you get visas easily, and you go.
I actually wanted to.
I don't know whether you people know about this. What more better description of negligence is that, and how will they be accountable? How do you cause them
Actually,
to
in
account?
2022, we realized we had gone for a meeting in Toronto, in Canada.
I hope you give me my time.
Yes,
Yes,
I'm
yes.
actually adding to what you're saying. We were informed, and actually later on we verified, some councillors from the city went to Canada for a conference and never came back.
They live there, but when it comes
Never came back.
to council sittings, they get their accounts are credited by those allowances. So the allowances may not be an issue, but it's an issue, even if it's 1 shilling. But that the level of absence without accountability.
And we shall have to investigate it, because
And then you have hello, the mayor, who is a man running the city in press briefings. So I think that where we have laws and the critical mass that is not as accountable that we have, there must be another level of leadership that is serious enough to cause to account.
Okay.
Maybe a small comment I wanted to make.
Yes.
That you know Kampala City used to be a local government. Then in 2010, we enacted a law to put Kampala capital city under the central government. And now the law creates offices. You have the technical wing led by the executive director. You have the road mayor and his council. Now you have the minister in charge of the Ministry for Kampala and Metropolitan Affairs. Maybe there could be a challenge of even how these power centers coordinate.
Correct.
We may need to revisit the law and see how it's streamlined, because one would wonder from 2010 when we created the law, has Kampala capital city improved with this new legislative framework? Maybe not. We may need to visit the law. And what Honorable Leader is raising is very interesting. If it is true, there are councillors who were elected and they went for chair, they just went to Canada, and we shall have to investigate this as
But
government.
let me just say another
How would you
issue.
pay them
For
allowances
example,
when they are away?
for me, the level of lack of accountability is on the table. Recently, when the Kiteezi happened, I had just been asking some people that I have been seeing the leadership of the technical arm. They were traveling a lot out of the country to receive awards that, you see, Kampala City Authority is the best city in the world. They were getting awards and they were getting a lot of plaques. I don't know whether I'm the only one who was seeing that. And I'm like, why do I live in Kampala? So even that only should tell you that there's something wrong. But you see what Dr. Baryomus is talking about was the intention of giving Kampala that status of an authority was to remove it from the traditional bureaucracy of local government, to make it more robust, more professional, more efficient, and to deliver, because this is a capital city of a country. It cannot be like any other local government arrangement. So ideally, we should do, and they are better paid. I mean, the staff of KCCA, they are packaged and remuneration supposed to motivate them to deliver better than Gulu local government or Gulu authority or any other, because if you look at their allowances and their privilege, even their level of qualifications, ideally should make them better motivated, more professional to deliver the city, because the city is the face of the country. They talk about Kampala. Kampala is the face of Uganda. But the management, I've just given an example of the technical how they travel. And for them, they went into an overdrive of hiring bloggers, hiring media campaign. I don't know that you've been following this. Okay. To say Kampala is doing very well, they are the best performers, they are getting awards and very beautiful ceremonies. But the reality on the ground was different. And I think where there's an oversight at the level of parliament, there's an oversight at the level of the executive, but also we have 2 ministers there. But the issue, leave alone the different layers of management, it's about people, character, and the seriousness. It's the bottom line, Dr. Baryomus and colleagues, is patriotism. If you're not patriotic, there are no laws that are going to help us lead our country. You just have to know that you love your country, you've been given a job, do it. Thank you.
We have been joined by Honorable Mukasa Mbidde, the Vice President of the Democratic Party, Emeritus Legislator of the Yala there. You buy us coffee for coming in late.
But you have to request him that the English must be the one of we want the English of Kampala so that we are able to have a good conversation. Otherwise...
Honorable Mukasa Mbidde, I'll protect you from any English problems there, but...
particularly from my senior here.
Already the comment had come in from the Honorable Minister, but a quick comment on the letter from the President about Kiteezi and the dismissals of the 3 top officials there. A quick comment so that we can dive into our topic of discussion.
Okay, of course, pursuant to what has happened, particularly with regards to Kiteezi, I thought a few people ought to have resigned before they are removed. Although I do not think that also is a solution in itself. Because the removal of the executive director did not mention the violations that she did of policy that had been suggested by government, for example. It is a failure. It is an institutional failure. It is a management failure, in my opinion. What an executive director needs is majorly 3 things when you are appointed. You need the trust of the leadership, you need to have the power to take decisions, and you need resources. Now, in the absence of the three, whether you appoint for every 3 months a new executive director, Kampala will remain the same. We have had a history of an executive director who we know performed, but for political reasons, she had even to run away for her own dear life. And in my opinion, the rotting begins from the top. And to me, I would be a wazoko if I thought that actually appointing a new one makes a solution for Kampala.
Thank you very much for that quick comment. Let me read just one message that has come in about this. In Uganda, decision-making process among civil servants and those in authority has been significantly compromised, with many unable to make independent actions and decisions. This has created a system with officials seemingly constantly waiting for directives from one individual, stiffening initiatives and accountability. The ideology behind this is pushing like a wheelbarrow, sadly reflecting on the state of leadership with dependence on overriding decisions and progressive governance. This is Godfrey Rukundo, a student of leadership there. Let's jump into our topic of discussion. Over the weekend, especially this week as it began, social media was awash with comments that came in there on a Twitter handle by the Chief of Defense Forces. And those comments have stirred up, especially looking at what we see as 2026 elections. And these were the two tweets that came in. One, he said, I would like to announce that I will not be on the ballot paper come 2026, so I fully endorse the president and for the next elections. God has told me to focus on the army. He continues to another tweet and says, no civilian will lead Uganda after President Museveni. The security forces will not allow it. The next leader will be a soldier or a police officer. Honorable Minister, it's only befitting we start with you. A serving army officer, the Chief of Defense Forces, a 4-star general, goes on a handle and makes comments like this. One, endorsing the president. Two, talking about, we'll get to the one of the civilian there. What do you make of these comments, especially pronouncements or proclamations made by the CDF?
Well, ordinarily, those kind of comments do not merit by discussion, because I talked in the parliament. This matter was raised in the parliament, and I was saying in the government, there is a formal way we communicate. So that you cannot take it as a position of Ugandan army or a position of government. These were just casual comments made by General Kainerugaba. Because, for instance, I told the parliament, I speak for government, but if I'm at home talking to my children, we will say it is the government of Uganda telling the children at home. So we should distinguish between the official communication of government institutions and the government positions, and then the casual conversations, casual talks, casual comments that we make. So that statement attributed to General Muhoozi, if at all he made it, is not official position of the army. It's not the official position of the government of Uganda. But you, the media, you have chosen to amplify it and give it weight because we, the NRM government, believes in the Constitution of Uganda, which Constitution clearly outlines how you access positions of leadership from the level of the president to LC1 chairperson. And indeed, we have an electoral commission. Like we all know, it has already released a roadmap. 2026, we shall be going to the polls, and whoever becomes the president of Uganda will be that one who has been nominated and campaigned and voted for by the majority of Ugandans. Because even today at the media briefing, journalists were asking me, should Ugandans be in fear? I said, why? Fear what? No need to fear. We have a constitutional framework that guides the electoral processes and the democracy in this country.
Honorable Minister, I saw your comments on the floor of Parliament, and you said if you're in a public place and make a comment, the comments are yours and personal. But these comments are seemingly giving direction on where the country should go, especially saying any member of PLU should move to the NRM, endorsement of the president. You, on your personal Twitter handle, do not make such comments. So are you saying these should be disregarded, regardless of the way they came?
Absolutely. General Muhoozi has been making many comments. For instance, the other day he said his army can overrun Nairobi. So would you say government of Uganda threatened Nairobi? And
the president apologized on behalf of him.
Yes.
A whole letter was written.
That's why I'm saying these are just casual comments, maybe just made in his unguarded moments, but do not in any way translate into the position of UPDF or the position of government of Uganda. So there should be no cause for alarm. That's why I said, in my own view, it doesn't even merit the attention that you people in the media, you are giving it.
Charity, let me come to you. It's not the first time he's commenting. I have quite a number of comments here. One that the Honorable Minister has talked about. Caused the turmoil on social media, caused the turmoil that the president had to write a letter in apology to the Kenyan government, helped his stepping down from the command of land forces. Some of the comments: I will be president after my father. The fight of the truth will be very, those fighting the truth will be very disappointed. I will organize and make the country great as the Almighty intends. That is 19th March 2023. Then he goes on to talk about Kenya, and he says, in December 3rd, I have listened to the outcry of our people for change. I am with the people. Whatever the NRM has become certainly does not represent the people. He has called the NRM reactionary and not revolutionary. When you see this trend of commenting, the minister says we should disregard it as personal. Do you disregard it on the national scene?
We do not disregard it. And the reason why we do not disregard it is because even when you look at legal processes now, they're beginning to consider a contract being done through social media. That you can be told to have accepted a contractual relationship between you and another party if you sent your acceptance through a WhatsApp, for example. So technology has changed a lot of the spectrum of communication. The president sometimes also tweets serious things, and he hasn't written formally to say it is this or the other, but he tweets and he says, this is what I have decided. He said I was going to sack permanent secretaries, and he did. He sacked the one of Minister of Education, and it first came through a tweet. And it's a serious position. It came through his Twitter handle. And we knew the president is going to take action. And he has since said he's again going to sack more permanent secretaries. And he still used his Twitter handle. He did not write an official letter. So both ways, in other words, are now legally acceptable. Actually, if you look at international law, especially business law, they will tell you that one of the key tenets there now is that the mailbox rule has been overruled. We don't only consider the time when the person sent the acceptance through the mail in the box, but also email, fax, WhatsApp, Twitter. All those are being considered now, and that is why now there is judgment on instantaneous and non-instantaneous acceptance of a contract. That said, so General Muhoozi has been saying a number of things. Yes, he has. And it has left a lot of his supporters in jeopardy. He even instructed them that now join NRM. Before now, they had been saying they're going to stand for political position, even when they knew that he had registered an organization. And we told them that much, that a political party is different from an organization. Political parties are governed by the Political Parties and Organizations Act, while an organization is governed by the Companies Act of 2012. Now, if he has told his supporters to join NRM and they are quarreling and they are saying now we are disappointed, it means that that is very official position from him to the people that believe in him. And it's a very accepted mode of communication. And the journalists have not only hyped, but it also reflects, and I want to pick on to what the minister has just told us. It reflects on the whole question of institutions and democracy. You see, when we talk about institutional strength, why do we need a strong parliament? Why do we need a strong executive? Why do we need a strong judiciary? What does it help anyway? So if we took away the judiciary, then what? So what if we didn't have a judiciary? So what if we didn't have a parliament? So what if we cut off the head, because the executive is the head? If we cut off the head of a chicken, what happens? I said the chicken keeps spitting blood and it's dead, okay? And that's why you hear many Ugandans saying, oh, the fish rot starting from where? The head. So we need institutions and ways of communication according to institutions for the following reasons. One, it promotes the rule of law. Two, it helps in the democratization process. Three, it helps citizens to know how to participate, because the institutions will help to resolve conflict once it comes up. Institutions will set in place standards of engagement. Okay? Now, for example, the Electoral Commission will tell you we have a risk management system for the elections, and this is what it looks like. So whatever institution it is that is going to engage with the election, or whatever people are going to engage with the elections, they begin to know the standard has been set that once there is risk, this is how it is going to be managed. They will also tell you about their electronic system and data management system. You need to understand what is that electronic system and what is that data management system. How will it work for us in this election? Now that is a standard being set by what? By an institution. If the institution is not there, then what happens? It is mayhem. Anybody can set anything. So when it comes to communication over key issues of government, I think I want to agree with the Honorable Barrio Munsi that usually governments take time to think through communications that they're going to put across to the public and how they are going to communicate to the public on different facets of the political process. But for this particular one, it was important that General Muhoozi communicated the way he did. Why? There had been confusion between PLU and NRM. There had been stories of the general standing against the president. And camps had been created. There was a camp at PLU. There was a camp at the office of the national chairman, headed by Hajat Mzee. And all the time she went out, sometimes she had difficult exchanges. On social media, there was a lot of hate speech going on between those two camps. And so for the rest of us, the rank and file, the little citizens of this country, we were watching from a corner and were asking ourselves, so where do we go? Which one is right? Because these are power centers and serious power centers. So which one do we follow? We follow the son, we follow the father. Where do we go? It had become a big issue. And when he communicated, it was now clear, because we have about 1 year to the election. We are electing in 2026 in January.
Yes.
So we have 1 year. That is 2025. 1 year, 4 months. The 4 months I count is November, December, and October. That's 3 months. 1 year, 3 months. Now, in 1 year, 3 months, if people continued having camps within even the lead political organizing or political party or political facet, it was not going to look good for the political scene. You imagine we had candidates from PLU, and we had candidates from NRM, then we had candidates from all the other political parties that we have. What kind of mayhem would we have? How many would show up where? And what would it mean for the ordinary voter?
Honorable Ojara, knowing that PLU is also home, NRM is also home, these comments that are made by the general, his Twitter handle has Chief of Defense Forces, but he's referred to as the leader of the Patriotic League of Uganda. Who made the comments and for what?
In your context, what is your definition of home?
Home.
Yeah, you said home, so what is it?
You have a cooperation agreement with the NRM.
Okay, thank you, I have got it. This is probably my second time talking about the PLU here in this studio. And I'll most likely repeat what I said before. But in regards to the tweets that have been made by the chairman of PLU, I think it's important to make clarifications to Ugandans. And I think that clarification will help in partly addressing what my sister just said. I think many Ugandans seems to have struggled to understand what PLU is and what PLU stands for. And we have made it clear that PLU is not a political party. We are a registered civic organization. And we have stated repeatedly, and we will continue to say this, that PLU brings people from different walks of life. We are not a political party. That is the confusion. That is that is where many people do not understand. Again, if there are people who have been saying they are going to stand on PLU, I think that's where they could have missed the point. Because we are not a political party. We have people from FDC in PLU. We have people from NUP, including members of parliament who subscribe to NUP. Then PLU. We have members of parliament from the NRM, including ministers. They are part of PLU. Because ours is about promoting and preaching patriotism. It's about bringing people together. All right? Preaching that spirit of togetherness. We have to love our country. And in doing so, we do it irrespective of where you belong, irrespective of which religion you come from. It's not about which tribe, and that is what we are trying to promote. So at the end of the day, we have a country that everybody feels part of and everybody calls home. That is what, and that should be done by different people, not just PLU only. So the confusion has been, and we have stated and will continue to say that we don't have a problem with political parties, with any political party. One time we had a meeting with some members of parliament. They were saying, we are NRM, we are not part of this, and we say we are not in a struggle with any political party. But we are calling upon Ugandans who love their country, who want to preach patriotism, to be part of PLU. So, just to make it clear, we are not a political party. And so if you're not a political party, you cannot dream about fronting candidates, because that is the role of political parties. It is good that General Muhoozi issued that statement. It is also not wrong for him to express his support for some, because he's a voter. He's a voter. He has a right to speak his mind. Unfortunately, I think at some point there are Ugandans who think you should speak what they want to hear, and if what you are going to say is not nice in their ears, you shouldn't speak. But I think it is important that people should be allowed to speak their mind at individual level. Because when you deny somebody the opportunity to talk or even to think, then that is a violation of right. So let us talk about the tweet issued by General Muhoozi as an individual, as a Ugandan who has a right to speak, to express his opinion. So we need to make that clear. Now, so at an individual level, he has spoken his mind, expressing his desires and his support. But the second one, at PLU level, calling upon those who believe in PLU, those who are members of PLU, who want to contest, to preferably, that is talking to his members. It is between him and the members of the PLU. He is the chair of PLU. We have a structure. We have our different organs as an institution. So our internal discussions, we do it, and that is not a problem. So Ugandans should not worry. PLU will continue to do its work as a registered civic organization, and that is it.
So what happens to the law, especially for him as a serving military officer?
Well, two things I have to put, again, just like the Honorable Minister put it. I have, on several occasions, seen statements being issued by the UPDF. Because the UPDF as an institution has got very clear channel of issuing statements. And when they issue such statements, that depicts exactly what their position is in regards to whatever they've issued. So I am not going to say this is the official position of the UPDF or the CDF. Because we also need to respect that, yes, you can hold this position, but at a personal level, you are also a human being, a Ugandan, a citizen who has a right to express your feelings. So if you want to mix the two, then we can talk about the law. But if you recognize that as an individual, you also have a life to live and you can talk, then I think we can make. So if we are talking about the UPDF as an institution, I think there are clear channels of communication, and I'm not going to cross that line. But if somebody is talking as an individual, then we have to respect it.
Honorable Mbide, hearing both Charity and the Honorable Minister and Honorable Mapenduzi, and you look at these comments, both of them coming in over the weekend, what do you make of them first and foremost? But what does this mean for constitutionalism if we're specifically looking at the UPDF Act?
Okay, actually, you know, I am sometimes a bit conflicted because once in a while, General Mohozi instructs me to represent him as a lawyer on certain matters. And particularly somebody actually asked me on one of the other media stations that you now tell us, General Tumukunde was here, he said stuff already about this government, and he was imprisoned. So what is happening now to General Mohozi? So I quickly went back and looked at the tweet. That tweet that speaks practically about the fact that the next leader after General Museveni, that Ugandans will not vote for a civilian.
No civilian will lead Uganda after President Museveni. The security forces will not allow it. The next leader will be a soldier or a policeman. So
when you look at the laws of Uganda, they are guided by a legal principle. It is actually presented by way of a marxism, that nulla poena sine lege. That for you to be accused of a crime, that crime has to be specifically provided in the laws of Uganda, and a sentence equally provided for. I said, okay, when you look at this, what happens? Now, when I looked at the tweet, it only appeared a prediction. First of all, he did not talk about any government that is in power. I discovered that our laws actually do not, you cannot be arrested and charged for committing a future crime. So in my opinion, there was no crime committed. Because you see, clearly, General Mohozi spoke about what doesn't exist. His is just a prediction. And the manner in which Ugandans form government is by election. So unless somebody talks of a coup d'etat, that is when you can now begin thinking of criminality. But somebody who believes that government shall not be formed in such a way that a civilian shall be voted for me, that is a prediction which can be either wrong or right. Now, number two, when somebody tells you that he is not going to stand, or he is going to stand, if he is a military person, the meaning is that you now look at the laws of Uganda. What do they provide for? That for you to be a civil servant, public servant, and you actually run for office, you must have resigned within a period of of time. Except if you find somebody on the ballot paper when he's a serving military officer. I don't believe that the freedoms enshrined under Article 29, particularly the freedom of expression, is actually not available for soldiers, which soldiers are actually sometimes elected and sent to parliament to speak politics with members of parliament under the rules of procedure. So Uganda has not gotten to a stage beyond which it does not allow a few, by way of discrimination, a few of its people to speak freely. What otherwise this means is that he has created a dichotomy between public statements and personal statements of soldiers. So I expect now all soldiers to begin venting their own opinions, futuristically, to the extent that then if that is discovered wrong, we will now need a specific legislation against it. Otherwise, we do not have a problem, as we say. General Tumukunde spoke about the current government of the time. This has spoken about a future government that doesn't exist. So you cannot be criminally held liable for a future crime, a crime that you have not yet committed, in my opinion.
And I'm glad you have brought it up and talked about future, but also when we look at his tweets before that, the one about Kenya, the ones about Russia, it speaks about things that are happening now. If any serving officer made such comments, they would be subject to this law.
Which law? Because in my opinion, which law would you cite? That if somebody spoke about, because that of course, I cannot address personally matters for which the president of Uganda apologized and actually removed him from active service as a commander of land forces. Number two, there is something that I had not spoken about, and I think this is in addition to what Comrade Matpenduze has spoken about.
I would like to quote some things that are in the UPDF Act. Section 38, making oral or written statements is spreading harmful propaganda. Section 30, offense by a person in command.
No, why don't you read the section? Because it provides major provisions.
Because I'm just speaking out what it is talking about. Specifically section 38 that talks about making oral or written statements. This is leading to spreading of harmful propaganda or ill government or army exception construct. The things that are exempt are ill government or exceptional constructive criticism. But here they are oral or written statements that spread
but the word
harmful
government refers to the government of the Republic of Uganda. Now, when you go to the interpretation section of the Constitution, wherever you find government in the whole of Uganda's laws, it refers to the government of the Republic of Uganda. Now, anything future is not actually what is provided for. So that government must have been voted for, and it has got a time frame of 5 years within which another is formed. So that section does not apply to things that are said for purposes of the future.
So what does this mean for constitutionalism in this country?
So for me, I begin to think that even soldiers are beginning to get their rights. I would like every soldier to begin test driving now their apparent rights created, generated as a bedrock by the commander, the chief of defense forces. Let us test drive these rights. Ugandans are behaving like, you know, a chicken that has actually been almost for 24 hours tethered on a rope. Even when you cut the rope, it begins to think the rope is still there until you chase it. That's when it realizes that actually the rope is long gone. Ugandans should begin to exercise some of these freedoms, other than saying that it is actually not good that such freedoms are being exercised. The reason why soldiers were sent to parliament, soldiers were placed in all positions of authority under the Constitution, is because we are remembering the historicity of havoc caused by soldiers that believed a lot of political activity took place without their own recourse. So they want involvement, and once you begin to think that you're going to curtail a coercive arm of government against decision-making and opinions, then their opinions will be vented by way of a coup d'etat. So freedoms, in my opinion, are more preferable than actual conscription into silence.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me get to Honorable Lydia Wanyoto lastly before we call it the first hour there. Honorable, it's been ongoing since 2019, all these comments, but we specifically look at the ones of the weekend. Endorsement of the president, the NRM, where does that leave the NRM and PLU come 2026?
No, I think there is the issue of the law on one side, the politics of it, and the interpretation of the law. You heard how Honorable Mbide has labored to explain that, to interpret that we cannot legislate in anticipation. That's what I was saying. Because when you talk about the future, you anticipate. But the practice and the law in Uganda, it has been that the military or uniformed people are not supposed to be partisan. In fact, that even those in parliament are supposed to be listening posts. They shouldn't be seen to be overly participating. But maybe this is the new normal. It's the beginning of a new conversation or dispensation. And the best placed people, well, for us, we are civilians, we can look at what the law says and then the new evolving dynamics. But maybe the best people to come and also explain the way they look at the whole evolving is you bring the spokesperson of the EPDF here, or even General Moz himself. He can come and tell us exactly what he thinks and how he sees. Because if he can tweet, then he can talk. And only that his tweets normally come up at 3 a.m. but maybe he can come at 9 or 10 and speak. Because, and I had to tell Mbide that because the media and the public are debating what General is tweeting, that tells you that it's not a normal thing. I think that's also should be a reality on the table to discuss, because if it was normal, they wouldn't be discussing it. Honorable Mapenduzi talked about the PLU, Patriotic League of Uganda, and said it's not a political party. Yes, it is not a political party, but it has not been discussing parish development model or how to immunize children. It has been debating hardcore politics. It has been discussing the PLU mobilization is political. That's why we also discuss it. I think we need to be open and fair to ourselves. All the debates I've seen, I support, I've been part of the PLU mobilization. They came to Mbale, I attended, they've been inviting me, and there's no meeting I have gone and we're discussing breastfeeding of children or discussing polio, which has broke out. We've been discussing elective stuff and even proposing presidential candidates. So many people had been directed in their mindset that maybe PLU was going to evolve into a registered political party. But now there's been a redirection on what it should be, where its members should be doing. And the members haven't been told to go and join a football club. They haven't been told to go and join a circle. They've been told to go and join a political party. I don't know whether I'm making a point. And therefore, I think the mobilization was political. And like Mbide has said, people are free. Maybe this is the new normal. And if all Ugandans can go out there and mobilize to win elections, so let it be, and we move on. Instead of putting the head under the ostrich story of putting the head under the sand. The reality is that we are all political. We have been mobilizing towards particular tendencies. But I think I would like to applaud General, because in the past, people are complaining that, he's discussing politics. He has created an organization which is political, but discussing politics. Now he said he's not going to contest, and he has redirected them to a political party. So when he does not direct, we complain. When he directs, we complain. What do we want?
Okay.
I think now he has closed that matter. The people have been told that he has advised. So let's go and deliver 2026 and move on.
Yes,
one viewer has actually sent me a copy of Section 79A of the Presidential Elections Act. And this gives details of involvement of a public officer in a political campaign. Now, I would like to tell you viewers that it's extremely important for you to take interpretation of laws to those that are trained to interpret, because you may misinterpret them. Now, this says, a public officer who, one, campaigns, solicits for votes or public support for a candidate, or uses or permits another person to use public resources for purposes of campaigning, soliciting for votes or support for a candidate, commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 500 currency points or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 5 years, or both. Now, this provision refers to a candidate. There must be a campaign, there must be a candidate, and a candidate is upon nomination. So this, and this is where Ugandans have been going wrong. You are forgetting that we provide services as advocates, and you begin running up and down like priests, trying to interpret the laws other than imprimateria. You begin reading them just piecemeal. You will not get the proper meaning or interpretation of a provision. Now, this provision has nothing to do with public officers, all of them, because there is no candidate and there is no campaign.
Okay, let me read some feedback before we take a break. Good evening, Timothy. Kindly ask the Honorable Chris Baryomunsi, would the government take the same tweets from another soldier the same way they are taking this from the general himself? This is George. Okay. We are tired of politicking. Muho is here. Museveni or others, let the citizens wait for voting to select their leader of choice. Meanwhile, advise Ugandans to use the limited time we have for production and earning. This is Laban from Chireka. Okay, finally, I'm Lydia, watching from Ginger. Thank you for the show. Much as we are living in an information age, it's disappointing that people use it for propaganda and distracting people. I believe that the general is a human being to give his opinion on issues. We are free to choose his opinions or not. Secondly, this country has a lot of problems that need to be discussed and get solutions for. My great disappointment is that we're always politicking on issues of the order of the day. It's always like elections, and nothing else. Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be reading some of these comments, but also this conversation will continue after that.
You used to tell me that I don't make you happy. All that time you would be complaining. I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't go.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Maskari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Welcome to Inside Broadcasting.
Sharing with you the process behind what you see on the screens.
My name is Lorene Masika Kazimoto.
Step behind the scenes and witness the magic that brings your daily broadcasts to life.
That's why I come out openly to actually tell you that I'm an investigative journalist. That even when you see me here, I'm actually investigating you guys. So you should be aware about that.
Experience the hustle, the heart, and the human stories of our on and off-air staff.
I see my phone ringing and I'm like, ooh, which number is this? I hear the president on the other line.
The President of the Republic of Uganda.
Of Uganda, yes.
Be inspired, amazed, and part of the journey that powers Uganda's most captivating TV and radio moments.
Because good broadcast comes down to an individual. They should be artistic.
This is Inside Broadcasting.
Inside Broadcasting.
Inside Broadcasting with Mark Wadula.
In a world that never stops, find your balance, your beauty, your radiance. Welcome to Dr. Beauty, the show where beauty is more than skin deep. Join us as we explore the secrets to glowing skin, healthy hair, and the perfect self-care routines. From expert tips on skincare to makeup magic and everything in between. Dr. Beauty will unlock the code and show you how to embrace the beauty that's uniquely yours. Dr. Beauty, only on UBC TV, inspiring Uganda.
Quick commercial break here on Behind the Headlines. As we get to this last leg of the show, my name is Timothy Nyangoso. I'm joined by Charity Ahimbisibwe, Honorable Martin Ojarama Penduzi, Honorable Mukasa Mbide, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, and the Honorable Minister, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi. Let me read these two comments so that we can get into the last leg of this conversation. Thank you, Timothy, for the show. Did I hear the Minister use the phrase, in quotes, his unguarded moments, with reference to the whole CDF, who is on top of the national security 24/7? Is Honorable Baryomunsi in order? This is Muzei Arari there asking the question. But there was one that was important here for me to read. It seems to have disappeared. Okay, I'll leave it at that so that we can be able to continue the conversation. It was very lengthy from a gentleman called, yeah, I'll leave it there. I'll get to it. Honorable, would you like to respond to this before I ask a question? Unguarded moments.
Again, to emphasize the point I had been making, that I think General Mohozi made that comment as an individual, in his personal capacity, not as the CDF speaking on behalf of the Ugandan army. So it was just, there are two types of communication. There is a formal communication and informal communication. So that falls under the category of informal communication, which is just casual, expressed in a manner that is cavalier. So and that's why I don't want to read much. I'm even surprised that we can spend all these 2 hours discussing that kind of tweet, yet there are serious issues which we should be discussing here for the benefit of Ugandans.
And I agree with you, Honorable Minister.
Yes.
Something Charity said about technology, being that ICT falls in your
There are people who are excited with the communication with these devices. You see how people spend days and nights on WhatsApp and social media, and we've been guiding that let's use the social media for development, not really just making that those casual comments. Somebody had also asked whether any other officer, if he or she made such a comments, he would be treated the same way. Well, me, yes. But again, to really caution that the UPDF Act and other attendant laws are very clear that public servants, including serving military officers, are supposed to refrain from participating in partisan politics. So that law still stands and still guides army officers and security officers and the other public servants. So that law has not been suspended, it still remains. So they should be able to do their professional work, but avoid engaging in partisan politics. They can be political, but without necessarily going partisan, because politics is about resources, how resources are distributed. That's fine. But I think what the law prohibits is going partisan, especially in a multi-party dispensation like ours. But the PLU, yes, to me, and I think they're registered as an organization, although they have been discussing politics, but legally speaking, it's not a political party, and it has not in any way caused any stress to NRM as a party. The NRM has remained strong, acting the way it has been acting. Well, we welcome the message by the boss of PLU, General Mohozi, when he said, all those who are in PLU, please join NRM. We receive them, because for us as a party, we receive everybody, including people from DP, people from UPC, even those who are in the main opposition parties. If they are joining NRM, we receive them. But the existence of PLU in any way, because the theme of this discussion, the way you had coined it, was as if there are internal conflicts within the parties and you are focusing on NRM. NRM has not in any way been affected by the emergence of PLU, in as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you very much. Charity, I hope at some point the gloves can go off, but how do we switch this conversation from personalized politics to institutions and national issues, especially looking at 2026?
And I'm happy about that question. I'm going to run over numbers in a very short while, because I think that if you're a political party and you're left with 1 year and 3 months to an election, you better be paying attention to the following things. 1, the integrated system that is going to be used by the Electoral Commission to tally results and finally get them announced. What is the integrated system? So political parties are supposed to pick that electoral roadmap, think through it back to back. The integrated system is the system of where they are telling you that for them they will continue to give you lump sum results, and you might not know, you might not be able to identify your results from your polling station from the lump sum results that you'll be seeing finally at Nambole, like it was with the past election. But for you to believe those results, you need to understand how the integrated system works. And so, as a political party, you should be sitting with your fellow political political parties are vehicles for organizing for elections. You should be sitting with your fellow members to think about these questions of the integrated system. Beyond that, we have 80,000 villages that are going to be involved in the coming elections. Why are we talking villages? Because the special interest group elections start from village level. and they move to parish level, and they move to sub-county level, then to the district, and finally national level. And all the time, or most of the elections, if you look from 2006 through to 2021, most of those elections have been won by NRM. You know why? Because the other political parties hardly understand what is happening within those electoral organizing units, electoral college systems, but also there is a lot of money and cheating which NRM puts there. Are there mechanisms that other political parties are putting in place to see that their candidates will be fielded for the different offices within these special interest group elections? Parish elections for the special interest groups are starting in January, which is 3 months from today. So the people who are going to manage that process, okay, all the subcommittees which are going to manage that process from village through to the district are going to be elected in January. How are political parties organizing for that? Are you also ensuring that maybe one of your political party candidates will be a member of the subcommittee? Because if you have a DP, you have a UPC as a member of the subcommittee, the process becomes a bit more transparent. So for me, I expect political parties to be analyzing, okay? Look at the data. Before now, we said we had 18 million voters. We are now talking of 24 million voters. How are you targeting 24 million voters? How many are on your voters register? We had issues of spillover of political party arrangements, political party primaries, left people very angry. People fought, and they didn't resolve their issues at political party level. It spilled over into national elections, and some people contested who was representing. They ended up having independents coming up to stand against their party candidates, and some of them lost. How are you tackling that at political party level? And so I think that the caller who called in and said, look, we are always just talking politics, 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 politics. They don't understand certain things. That you see, the politics of the day determines everything else that happens. That for you as a voter who is watching and saying it's just politics, 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 PDM will be determined by the kinds of leaders that you've elected. Whatever it is, the economy will be determined by the leader that is in office. So for you to push for accountability, you need a leader whom you know that you're going to demand accountability from. So these things are interconnected. You cannot just say it's just about politics. No, it's not just about politics. It's about organizing for this politics. And then I also want us to pay attention to the regions. Before now, Electoral Commission only used to have 12 regions. First, in 2006 through to 2016, we had 12 regions. Fast forward, 2021, we still had 12 regions. But in 2026, we're going to have 15 regions. Why? Where do we suddenly have 15 regions? These are the questions that should interest political parties. So how do we organize for 15 regions? What does it mean for us to organize for 15 regions? Do we need more people who will be party agents? And the other time, we saw the military locking up party agents of opposition political parties. Are opposition political parties going to be given a chance to participate more in this process? Do we see a bit of tolerance coming up? Are we going to see a replay of what happened in 2021? Because there was no healing. We had a lot of people who died. Accountability was done halfway. There are still some political prisoners still locked up. Some have been released. Some are still there. And we are heading for another election that is still not resolved. So how do we handle that then? How do we improve the process? This is what should be happening in political parties across the board. But if I tell you what I see from political parties, I see them pinpointing each other. Naja Nankumbi is against Katonga. Noop is talking about their people within their political circles who cannot come back in Maokota, who can't come back here. We are looking for which candidate to put here, to put. They're not looking at the process. And for you to succeed in the process, You need to pay attention to that process. For you to win an election is a process. So unless you pay attention to those numbers and know how many villages you have, how many sub-counties you have, how many voters you have, how many regions you have. I'll tell you, for example, I found it very interesting myself that the reorganizing has ended.
Of polling sessions?
Yes. Now, Electoral Commission is coming to announce for you
the demarcation
that we are done. Yeah. So now, how many political parties are going to pick that information and de-escalate it to the last voter within their political party system? Political parties even have a chance at the voters register, which we don't ordinarily get as civil society, but political parties get them. When you get that voters register, do you commit to see the ghosts on that register? Or you just receive a register and so, yeah, they have given us a register and we move with it. Because you're people who are associating with people in communities. You know who died, you know who is alive, you have members in these communities. It is very simple for you to tell where the ghosts are and raise them, bring them out to the fore. These are the things that I expect political parties to be organizing for ahead of the 2026 electoral processes. We will have 390 constituencies. Do you already have candidates for each of those constituencies? And then for the women, if you look at the LC5 elections that we've had in this country, or local council elections, voter turnout has been low continually because people get tired after electing the president and parliament. But NRM doesn't get tired. For them, they leave when they have already set their people. Are other political parties doing the same? Will they be given a chance to do the same? Because, of course, in other elections, we've seen that they've been curtailed by the military, they've been curtailed by NRM itself because it is over-domineering. But can we see a bit of space for these political parties to also organize? Can they start now to know that we shall field candidates in the LC3, in mayor, in divisions, in cities? These are the people that we want to line up. Does ANT have such a list? Can they put it out? Are they planning for it? How are they supporting their people? How are they mobilizing resources? Resources is one of the biggest things that has affected political parties. They have not yet accounted for money which EC has passed on to them for the last 3 years. 5 political parties have been receiving money continually from the Electoral Commission. And in the roadmap, Electoral Commission has put this out. If you cannot be accountable for 1 shilling, why should you take government where you're going to handle billions of shillings? So we expect now accountabilities to be displayed by all these 5 political parties. If you haven't displayed it, then you have internal problems within political parties that you still need to resolve.
Okay. Honorable Mapenduzi, have the intentions of PLU been achieved that you're now moving to the NRM? And what symbiotic relationship will be there between PLU and the NRM?
I would like to, I think your question is very good because that will allow me make some clarification. Our chairman, the chairman of PLU, General Mwozi, has not directed PLU members to join NRM. He has encouraged those who are interested in contesting to consider contesting as NRM members. He has encouraged them. He has not directed PLU members to join NRM. The other thing that I also want to clarify is that we have been to so many, like Honorable Lydia tried to put it out, the different meetings that she has attended and where a lot of politics have been discussed. When you are talking about patriotism and all that, in most times, politics will come in. But that does not mean that PLU is only about politics. PLU talks about a lot of the things that helps, Ugandans.
Like what?
Well, if you want me to, let me first finish. There are many things that Ugandans have to consider. So they begin to laugh and have a strong sense of ownership, loving this country. And when you are talking about that, you will talk about fighting corruption, you will talk about, there are many things you talk about, because you cannot be patriotic if you are corrupt. So we have been talking about fighting corruption, there are many things. Now, so, even where our chairman has been, he was in Bukedia, he was in Soroti, we were in Masaka. Actually, in Masaka, he encouraged that for those, he encouraged the people of Masaka that when you are electing leaders, elect leaders who are patriotic. He did not say elect leaders who are PLU, because PLU is not a political party. And even his message has been constant. So when you say, have we achieved now that we are moving to the NRM? PLU is not moving to the NRM. PLU remains PLU. It remains a civic organization. It will continue with its mission. But it's not wrong for a member to say, Timothy, if you're interested, if you're interested in contesting, why don't you consider contesting on NRM? That is an opinion that it's subject for your own. You can take it or leave it. It's okay.
So how is the symbiotic relationship between the NRM and PLU going to work? Especially if, giving an example of your constituency, NRM has a candidate.
Well, what I'll tell you is that we have got NRM members who are members of PLU. And PLU respects that.
What happens to members that are like Dr. Kagabo, that is with NUP, and NRM puts a candidate in the same...
That is why I said our chairman encouraged, you can take it or leave it. But we also know that there are those who would want to stand on, they would want to go for elective, politics. They would want to contest. If they are DP or FDC or NUP, it is their choice. So there is no punishment. It's not a crime to have a different belief. It's okay. We respect that as PLU.
So right? Timothy, who is with PLU in National Unity Platform, can run in the same constituency that Honorable Mapenduzi, who is NRM, is in.
That takes you to what PLU stands for. And I stated that PLU is not a political party. So if you are joining PLU purely for political reasons, then you're in the wrong place. If yours is to win an elective position, then probably you haven't understood well. I think we need to do a lot more so people get to understand better. Ours is about preaching patriotism. Ours is about that which I've explained to you. But of course, people have got, when people join different groups, different people have their unique, expectations. It is not wrong to have expectations, but it is important that even with your expectations, you need to take time to understand how a particular institution runs. So we are a long way to go. PLU is not stopping today.
Preaching patriotism to what end?
Oh man, I think we need to have time with you and talk more because I think you should be the first to really get to learn more about PLU.
Thank you very much. Let me get to Honorable Mbide. Honorable, the Democratic Party has a cooperations agreement with the NRM. PLU has recommended its members to be able to, who want to run for elective politics, to join the NRM. What does that mean for DP? And what does that mean in the grand picture of opposition come 2026?
Yeah, and I think they are extremely pertinent questions that our colleague panelist has also equally put forward, asking political parties how organized they are in terms of the integrated system of election management that is going to apply, how we are prepared to have candidates from all over the world, all over the country. Now, let me succinctly tell you that there is a problem in Uganda. And the problem, of course, emanates from our failure to implement the principle of multipartism. Uganda has not really implemented a multi-party political dispensation. We have got a multiplicity of registered parties, yes. But the performance of parties to the extent of referring to our body politic as multi-party has not applied with equal force. So we are within still the category of African politics, where it is a dichotomy of two sentiments. There is an authoritarian government and those struggling to make sure it lives. Now, there is nothing ideological in terms of the political parties that exist in Uganda. It is just about seeking to take office and others seeking and maintaining it, maintaining a hold onto it. So Uganda does not have political parties. Even NRM thinks it is a political party. But you see, members of NRM know that they actually do not influence the direction of affairs of government. It is only being used as a cloak. It is a uniform that a different entity usually wears for periodical purposes and for ends to meet. Sometimes that are political in nature, that are actually categorized within a period of nomination and voting. That is when NRM becomes a political party with serious regard by candidates. But after that, obviously, you have no business in the opinions of running state. So what is happening in Uganda is an extreme blockade of political organizations from functioning. Now, Uganda, from 1986 to 2005, all political parties under the provision of Article 269, the infamous, were in abeyance, completely blocked from operation. Now, what does that mean? That for 19 years, nobody learned even how to operate a political party. So you are dealing with the novices of running political parties, but believing that they are actually ideologically very comfortable in order to obtain and capture state. It is impossible. So we failed, and during the process of individual merit, the individual opinion was sacrosanct. So people do not even know how to belong to political parties. They do not know that under a political party, of course, the opinion of a party agreed upon is supreme. So what we have in Uganda is a complete, and some people call it democracy when elections are going to be held periodically. I have one time here described it for you as a democradula, or a dictablanda. It's not a democracy. It is impossible that you can have a democracy where one candidate appoints an electoral commission. You see, the electoral commission is faced with one major question. All members of the commission are faced with a question whose answer they must provide every day. Who is your master? Now, in providing an answer to that question, you must go at full length to even announce an election while providing an answer. So it is impossible. Of course, we have got jurisdictions that have attempted to generate some level playing field. Like Kenya, for example. When you look at their constitution, the manner in which the Electoral Commission is put into place includes specific institutions that actually appoint commissioners, including a coalition of parties. Parties are also part of the panel that appoints the Electoral Commission commissioners. Kenya Law Society. So in terms of allegiance, the question of who is your master cannot definitely possess an answer of a candidate in an election.
Consider Kenya as the best practice in terms of elections?
I am not saying it is the best practice, but I have seen it as a practice where even an incumbent has lost an election. Why don't you call it best? So in my opinion, we can benchmark and say, why don't we deliver a hybrid? So here, all we believe in is nomenclature. We call groupings of Wadzoks and the Palokas, we call them political parties. Then we get groupings. You see, a task force of a candidate with a purpose of counting an election and declaring him winner. We call it an independent electoral commission. How independent? Where is the independence? Is it in terms of who pays them, who appoints them, who reappoints them? Or where is the independence? It's just by name. The Independence and Boundaries Electoral Commission of Kenya is independent because of the manner in which it is constituted. So, here, political parties, there is what we call cause and effect. And this is in answer to the questions Madam has raised. The inability of political parties to definitely make themselves available to the task is an effect of the blockades that have been established by government. You see, a political party, and I am telling you, no political party will clearly deliver an appropriate accountability of funds, because no political party has even had the freedom to definitely traverse the length and width of this country. I have got parties, we have seen parties here where even the burial ceremonies end up in tear gas. So, and of course now that is a rock and a hard place. It points a lot at what they also do. So what political parties and players, those that call themselves players, in fact here in Uganda, because of the two sentiments of for and against, we do not have a civic procedure that leads to proper elections to be held. We have found ourselves now having, because now almost a majority of voters are in parliament and members of parliament didn't win. It is because there was just a sentiment of for and against.
So where does that leave the country, Uganda and Ugandans?
It is a major problem, and that is why for us in the Democratic Party, we had proposed that I think it is now time for a new way forward.
Which is?
That we needed a dialogue while cooperating with the government that would ultimately now lead to amendment of electoral laws. There is a Professor Robert from the university, I think it is Robert Doe from the University of Yale, provided the proper procedure through which you can definitely lead yourselves or a country to a free and fair general election. And we thought, because there is a cooperation agreement, but there is no cooperation, because government is not interested in having amendments that have regard to obtaining a free and fair general election. So we have, I think, when I look at the time frame, the time left, some of the amendments may even have required a referendum, and in my opinion, I think it is out of time that we can achieve the same. So I think it all points to the goodwill of government.
Are you conceding that the cooperations agreement has achieved nothing?
The cooperation agreement was signed but has not been implemented. So when you begin to ask of achievements, then I think you are being anachronistic. It has not been implemented. So there is no cooperation. The agreement had details of what we had to do. In fact, part of the discussions that we are undergoing now internally is whether or not it still forms the objective reasons that made it a logical necessity for us to enter into the same, whether they still obtain, and if it is to the contrary, we are considering very many other means, intents and purposes, and we shall definitely tell the country when the time comes. So in my opinion, I think it all points at whether government is clearly interested in delivering democracy for Uganda, or whether they are doing for all intents and purposes, whether by chickenry, they only intend to be declared winners for the because I can tell you, there is not going to be a free and fair general election. All we are going to do is that those that have won before are going to be declared winners in terms of president, and of course the population will still get back to what we think they do best, and that is watching and agitating for further and better particulars of an election.
Using your own words, those are futuristic pronouncements.
Of course, they are
that you have made. So we can't really make legislation over your future.
No, if we talk of an election, when of course nominations have not been done, we are all being futuristic. It is called to habinja or prognosticate, to tell what is coming, and that is what we are properly doing.
Honorable Lydia Onyoto, coming to you, I saw that...
But to start from what Honorable Bide is saying, and which charity area mentioned, unlike other situations where you can ambush and get away with it, like this cooperation agreement, we've never seen some of us, but it happened. Elections are a process, and a process is as good as a result. So you have to anticipate, you have to plan. And that's why the Electoral Commission has washed its hands. They launched the roadmap and said, on this day, on this date shall do this, and we need so much. On this day, they have launched a roadmap because it's not a one-off thing. It's not an end. It's a process. So if you do not organize yourselves and tie your tight belts and walk the talk of the Electoral Commission, you cannot complain at the end. At some stage, you'll be losing out. And let's be fair. I mean, Ugandans who are watching us know this. If you are not an organized group internally, how are you going now to, like, it's like a football match. If you've not trained as a football club and put up your best 11, how are you now going to blame another club when you're on the when you're on the field and there's a linesman up and a referee? I hear many people blaming NRM and blaming the Electoral Commission, but they have not put out their best 11. They are not training, they are not camping, they have not picked even a best coach.
Or they even don't have a training pitch.
They don't even have a training pitch. I mean, I'm being honest. People are not even chosen which political party, which playing club they want to join. You've heard them saying, we are waiting for the 1 year before we join a training. I'm using political parties as maybe a training club. Yeah. It's a process. So, if your club has not trained, you will not win the game. And you cannot blame people who have trained. Charity, if the football clubs are going to compete in this election, don't have grassroots structures, they don't have players at the village level, they're not in NRM. Go to any village of the 8,000 in Uganda. Ask Bariomus, we have 30 leaders on every village in Uganda. 30. The 5 who are executive and then the interest group members. So when the referee says we are beginning to elect interest groups that Charity is talking about over the next year, you will find, you even know that villages who do not have people with disability, because that's another electoral structure. We know areas where people, we don't have people who are 60 or 70, the elderly. We have these structures. So when they say interest groups, you will see NRM has flag bearers.
Now I can ask the question.
So I just wanted to let's not lie ourselves that you want to be a member of parliament and you will jump like you are dove up there and you'll have MPs in the parliament, but you don't have councillors. Why? You don't have structures. So we can have a conversation like we used to have in iPod of saying that the enabling law and environment to where the political parties organize. But you've also heard it's not me who said political parties which have members of parliament get money from government, taxpayers' money. How much have they organized up to the grassroots so that they can have structures to compete? NRM would love to have worthy competitors, but you have seen what's happening in these other football clubs I'm talking about. They are not ready to have their best 11.
Honorable, let me ask a question.
And let me inform Mbide that the boss of the 2026 elections is the Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs. We expect that he's going to deliver for us the best ever.
He's not
with
allowed
the President General.
So you cannot sit here and talk about a boss.
But of course that is not correct.
It is correct. I hope I listened to you.
I would like to...
no,
but when you point at me...
Honorable, let her finish and then I come back.
I just want to make sure that the leader, he has not said he's not able, because then he would resign. He would resign. Okay. I want Ugandans to know that the mandated legal political supervisor who is going to deliver the 2026 general elections is the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. That mandate has not changed.
Who is also the President General of DP.
If we think that he cannot deliver...
Let's hear a response from Honorable Mbide.
Of course, I would like Honorable Wanyoto to reason as a lawyer.
It's legal, it is in the Constitution.
Yeah, Honorable Wanyoto, let him respond.
It is not in the Constitution that Honorable Norbert Mao is one of the commissioners of the Electoral Commission. And if you believe that the Electoral Commission... Let me explain. If you believe that the Electoral Commission is independent, then he wouldn't have cited such an example.
The political head is there.
But because at the subconscious level of your brain, you believe it is not independent, so you think I should tell the population that the minister is in charge. So
you say that they should know who they are answerable to. They are answerable to the Minister of Justice. You are the one who posed that rhetoric question.
Okay, let him finish his submission.
Yes. So the Act of Parliament that establishes the Electoral Commission clearly does not make regard to a Minister of Justice as one of the members of the Electoral Commission.
Who is the supervisor of the Electoral Commission?
I think it's simple of asking.
And no
if
minister.
Electoral Commission has
He's the one who
issues
raised
to
this
cabinet.
matter. It was him who was raising it.
Please allow Honorable
You
Mbide to
told
finish.
us that the Electoral Commission must be answerable to somebody. The political head of the Independent Electoral Commission, I'm not talking about a name, I'm talking about the office, is the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs.
And who is the head of the minister?
Well,
Honorable
that's-
Norbert
If you mention a name of a person that will, that will not be candidate, then I would have lost the debate. So my debate is clearly, even what you are talking about confirms that actually we don't have an independent electoral commission.
You are the one.
It does not matter whether the one that will make it less independent is related to me or not. It is factual.
We're talking about
and we are talking about
land.
Uganda. So a minister who sits in a cabinet headed by a candidate, if you tell me that he is supervising an election where that candidate is going to campaign, then there is a problem. So,
but what stops a minister from being a candidate?
No, I'm talking about President Museveni chairing a cabinet of ministers, including Honorable Mao. Which minister you're saying will supervise the elections? So I think that is the hochi-pochi. It is the wall of confusion of the whole thing. So if we want an election that will freely deliver a free and fair election, then you wouldn't bring such examples.
You are the one who is raising.
Okay.
No, I'm saying
no,
you
but
are confirming
Yes.
my point.
It's not me confirming. Timothy, I do not want to sit on a panel or be in Uganda with people who want to have their cake at the same time keep it. If you think that the framework of Uganda's constitution
When you have
and the
the cake,
NRM government is not delivering, why are you part of the process?
we are not
Resign
part.
and
We are not part of the process, and I think this is where again the problem comes in. Honorable Mao.
Why are you part of the process?
Then I am answering.
Okay.
We are not part of the process. Honorable Mao was appointed as a tool of implementation of an agreement that included a full amendment of laws of Uganda to include, among others, establishing a transition for Uganda.
So where are we now?
And why we are in talks is because it is not going to take place, and we shall tell the country later.
When?
What will happen? So
the roadmap is running.
So should we
The
expect
roadmap is running.
Should
So
you expect
when?
Mao's resignation soon from government?
you can expect anything because we are talking. And I can
Finally, Honorable Mbide.
because you never expected him coming, you may not expect him leaving.
Well, he told
And
us.
any can happen.
Okay.
Yes.
Because time has run out, I'll give parting shots. I'll start with Charity, Honorable Jara, Honorable Mbide, Honorable Lydia, and finally the Honorable Minister.
So my parting shots are going to be, in the elections, if you've been looking the way they have gone, citizens have dropped MPs across board. 50% MPs did not return in 2016. 53% did not return in 2021. And 58%, I mean the first election I should have talked about was 2011. The 50%, then came 55, then came 58.
That's 2021.
2021. Ugandans are watching me. You know how your different leaders across the board have performed. If you're sure they did not deliver your mandate, don't hesitate. Go register to vote in January 2025. Make sure they don't return. Thank you.
That sounds like no civilian. Honorable Mapenduzi, over to you.
May your prayers not be heard.
Honorable Jara.
I fully agree with her. I join you in that. But just like Charity mentioned at the start when she was talking about political parties, she touched on very pertinent issues, and that's where I want to conclude with. As long as political parties do not spend a lot of time to build structures that work, I don't think we should continue talking about political parties, because rightly, as she said, I think the NRM has done a lot better in making their structures functional, but also preparing their supporters to do the needful. I think it's time that political parties, all political parties, need to prepare adequately. But not just themselves, preparing Ugandans, so that when the citizens go to vote, they are able to make correct choices. And so my parting shot is that I think many political parties need to up the game. And it's important that they move away from the unnecessary fights. I don't know how that is going to happen. It's likely to even get worse. Many political parties are likely to continue collapsing as they are going towards election. I don't know what is going to happen to FDC. Now there is FDC, solid, liquid, and gas. From the tone I hear my brother talk, my senior brother, I think there is some cloud gathering, and it's going to rain on DP. I think Honorable Akana is trying to really matches the UPC at a lot of issues.
The issues still exist. There was a judicial review process which hasn't happened, and I think that's part of the institutional discussion we're supposed to have. So UPC has a big issue over leadership. Judges said something.
Yes, in court I would say yes, but on the ground, I think if the UPC cares about political power, then what they're doing practical on the ground should actually supersede, should determine how the UP, because if you have people who are busy mobilizing and you are beginning to get candidates elected, winning, and I think they need to pursue that instead of every time getting stuck in court, because courts are not going to address problems of political parties.
But courts are institutions that are meant to help us move a certain way. And if courts pronounce themselves on the question of leadership of UPC, I think that is an issue that needs to be resolved ahead of 2026.
I think political parties have to decide whether they're going to practice politics in court or out there. I think that is important, because that will determine
courts are arbiters. Courts are arbiters.
I agree with you, lawyer.
Honorable Mbide.
Yes, my major problem is where the NRM government is versus political parties. And when you look at even, and it spread even to the political party called the NRM, when you read the preamble, part of the things that it credits itself for having achieved date back beyond 1979. And yet this is a political party formed in 2005. So that tells you that actually there is something, it is actually government speaking, but using lenses and a microphone of something called the political party that was recently registered. So the prevalence of prebendalism, helping themselves up to resources to run what they call a party and a government, is an opportunity that most political parties do not have. And clearly putting them on the same weighing scale, you will always achieve inverse results.
Thank you. Honorable Lydia.
I would like to appeal to Ugandans to be mindful of people who are playing in what I would call football clubs in names of political parties, but they are not consistent, they are not clear, and they are not pro-people. They are dealers in the political scheme of things. Those are the people that have caused Uganda the biggest challenge in governance, because Uganda, we've not lacked good weather, we've not lacked food. What has been escaping us for many years since independence are good leaders, not even good political parties. So I would like to request Ugandans to look out for good leaders. It may not even matter the color which they come in, but just look out for good leaders, so that, because when they come to parliament, when they come to the national, they crisscross corridors of power and they participate in the national positions and in the national case. So let's look out to, if it's a club like NRM, look for those who have had the best coach, the best 11, the best players, and even the reserve. We even, for us, then we even have reserve who are good. because be careful with those who will come to play in the field last minute. They will develop muscle pools, what they call a switch, and then they fall down and they will not serve you. So I really want to say that I applaud the Electoral Commission, despite the resources, despite the inequality of their leaders and supervisors. They've been able to stay the course. They've released the roadmap. They are struggling to get resources. At least they've been able to mind the constitutional requirement and the mandate of the institution on this very important exercise of the general elections. And they are the supervisors or they are the coordinators of the political parties. But also there is a window of independence. So let's look out to those who are participating in the process, because the process is as good as the end.
Thank you.
Come January 2025, NRM will be ready to field the candidates of interest groups, provide flag bearers at all levels up to the president. We want to pray for good health and we make our contribution to providing leadership to our country. I call upon other political parties and players that we want to meet worthy competitors to provide leadership for Uganda.
Thank you very much. Lastly, the Honorable Minister.
Yes, 2004-5, we went into a referendum and took a decision to go multi-party. And we in the movement transitioned into the NRM party, and we've been competing with the various opposition parties. By the way, since then, there are up to 40 political parties registered with the Electoral Commission, although few are pronounced because they have representation in Parliament, but there are many. There is a tendency for these opposition political parties to blame all their weaknesses on NRM. Instead of focusing on criticizing NRM, if I were you, I would rather build our internal structures, do mobilization, reach out the country, and prepare. Because you hide under electoral reforms. Even if we brought a plethora of reforms, would it make DP popular in Kanungu where they don't even have any member? Would DP become popular in Karamoja where they are not? So I think the parties miss the point. The major challenge, well, the major point, the major issue I see with most of these parties, they lack ideological purity. You cannot know what they stand for. A number of them, look at FDC, look at which Chagulanyi's party is what? Chagulanyi's party is which one? No. And they are all focused on President Museveni must go. That cannot be an ideology of a party. You look at UPC, yes, we have a cooperation arrangement with them, but they are just a tribal enclave of Lango. Beyond Lango, where do you find UPC? You look even at this NUP. Again, it's a tribal enclave of Uganda. Although it's being fractured heavily, you look at the FDC. They have an incurable fracture where they are now split. Why? Because they are not ideologically clear. They are not clear on what they stand for. So, and they want to blame all those on NRM. For us, we focus on delivering the manifesto because we are a ruling party. We have a social contract with Ugandans. We are preoccupied with delivering what we promised Ugandans. And we just watch from a distance the internal chaos within the political party. So the political parties should put their act together rather than blaming. And finally, electoral reforms. We have sufficient laws as we speak now to conduct free and fair elections. Even if we chose not to bring any single reform in Parliament, the elections will take place and Ugandans will freely and fairly choose leaders of their choice. Okay. So let nobody hide under reforms. Just go, organize your parties, you reconcile, stop those bickerings and fightings within your parties, and mobilize Ugandans, make your message very clear to Ugandans for them to choose between your message and what NRM stands for. And that, I think, that's what most of the opposition parties lack. Okay.
Let me read some feedback here. This is Wilson from Muyenga. He says, Honorable Bariamunsi, when one becomes a public figure, like General Muhoozi's stature, Every statement counts. Consider his position at the top of the army, and it becomes sensitive in security organs. That he has one time acted erroneously, and it will get us in trouble, okay? This is Alfred. He says, the so-called leaders are just opportunists. Their reactions towards the Muhoozi tweets can easily tell you that they're only looking at the next opportunity after Museveni, because they are already aware who's next after Museveni. Shame upon them, okay? Thank you, Timothy, for the show. I have missed some of the guests there, and thank you for bringing them. This is Omoro from Kitugum there. Yes, this is lengthy. This is Eric Okidi. He says, we are living in a civilization that is highly developed. We are living in a world that is scientifically arranged, in which everything that is done by those who control it is done through a system. Proper management, proper organization. Among some of these organized methods used to control the world is the thing known and called propaganda. Propaganda has done more defect than good intentions of the rest of the nation, than even open warfare. Propaganda is a method or a medium used to organize people to convert others against their will, which Muhoozi's way has done there. The last two here. Good evening, Timothy. NRM factions are downplaying the announcement by an employee of the Ministry of Defense, not knowing that they will be caught up in the same announcement. I thought we all know that Uganda is located in Africa. Finally, this is Sam from Kampala. Timothy, let us give Honorable Onyoto credit for being the only panelist that has the power to call a spade a spade. With respect to the general's political tweets, the rest are twisting themselves into avoiding disappointing the general. Okay. I want to thank Charity for coming through. Honorable Jara, thank you. Honorable Mbide, thank you very much. Honorable Lydia, thank you. The Honorable Minister, we appreciate you. To the team on the
with a pocket dictionary to interpret.
You have to start with a joke and end with one.
How can grassroots people understand this English?
I want to thank the production team that has made sure today is possible. My producer and the team behind the cameras for making today possible. We'll end it this way. Character is revealed when pressure is applied. Good morning.
Yeah.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of